Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another episode. Today, I have a very special guest with me, longtime friend of mine, Dom. Thanks for joining me, brother. Before I get into any of the topics that we have planned for today, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm a little tired from working, but you just gotta keep grinding whatever goes on.
And it's real. It's our 20s. It's our 20s. I'm not
Yeah,
our age, but it's our 20s.
yeah.
It's definitely the years to grind. So I hear you, man. In your opinion, do you think humanity in American society, do you think that it will progress as time goes on, or do you think it will get like worse, but like modelized?
I think I really don't think either one. I think it's gonna stay like the same, like how it is now. Because like if
Yeah,
you look at like the rallies and what's going on outside, like how there's always all these Black Lives Matter and then there's Blue Lives Matter, and then you look at like who's out there. It's not just the people who are like our age or like grown adults or people in their 60s and 70s. It's a lot of like little kids, like 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kids that are out there too. So I feel that like the parents are raising another generation of hate, and if it's not hate, then it's going to be another generation of this doesn't affect me, so I don't view it as a problem.
yes, that last point, absolutely. There's a lot of, I think you're right. I think it won't get necessarily better. It will just be different. But I still think that those problems are still going to, like, you can't hide problems by just rinsing water. At some point, you're gonna have to start scrubbing. You're gonna start using soap,
Yeah,
disinfectant. You know what I mean? Like, so these kids, like you were saying, children are starting to realize, are starting to learn what their parents have been teaching, which unfortunately is not the correct way. It's just been passed down from generation to generation. You know, either hate, whether it's prejudice, whatever the case may be, just preconceived beliefs. So yeah, I definitely think that um, it would just be more modernized and not.
yeah,
I feel like it could get better, but I don't feel like it would get worse. Does that make sense?
yeah. And I feel in order for it to get better, it's going to have to be more of a group effort. It can't just be like one group of people trying to make anything better. It's got to be more of a, hey, we all want this to be better, so let's work together. Because right now it's really a nation divided, and it's been that way for years. And I don't like it's not going to get worse because before anything will get worse, I personally see like a whole lot like the nation will just it'll it'll collapse on itself before things get any like a lot worse than where they are now.
I feel like now, uh, as we've been hearing, I'm sure you've heard like a lot of our friends talk about like racism has always been here. It's
Yeah,
just now we have technology to expose it. You know what I mean? Like we have phones, we have all this technology, so it's not like we as black people, we know it never left. A lot of people are like, where does it come from? It came back. No, 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 it didn't come back. It's always been here. We just
yeah,
haven't had the technology to expose it as much. But it's always been with us, So
yeah.
as always, history does repeat itself, good and bad. Um, so yeah. Do you think somebody can know you better than you know yourself?
Not not really, mostly because I think you spend the most time out of anybody, it's you spending time with yourself. Because even if you're one of those people who is always around somebody, you're not technically always with them because you have to spend time alone. And when you spend that time alone, your thoughts will begin to run and be like, well, why would I do this? And if this would have happened, I would have done this or would I have done that? Like, I think that you spend the most time with yourself. So I think it's not really possible for you anyone to know you better than you know yourself. It's more of a I predict that's how you're going to react. Instead, like you never know, like somebody could slap me and then the main reaction from that person is gonna be like, oh, he's gonna hit me back. But only I know like I'm probably gonna walk away or I'm gonna hit them back or I'm just gonna raise my voice. Like nobody really knows that except yourself.
I agree to the extent of somebody not really knowing who you really are. like is the other person. Like, no one really knows your thoughts. Only you do. You can have the top psychologists in the world, psychiatrists. Only you can really know how you think and the way you think, because everybody's designed differently. But I will say that you can mess around and, like you said, spend time alone. But some people today don't spend time alone, like evaluate, reevaluate themselves. So they're technically lost. They may think they know themselves, but they mess around and have people influence. A lot of times, bad influence. Bad influencers influence them, trying to tell them that they're this when they're really, because they feel empty. It's like people are filling your shoes. They're not supposed to fill your shoes. You are supposed to wear your own shoes. So it's like I agree in the sense that no one knows your true intentions mentally. But I will say that somebody can. I would not necessarily know you, but they can control. I feel like people can control other people if they're not careful, like reevaluating themselves, like think about
Yeah, like if you're not really careful, then it's easy to get, it's like peer pressure. Like it's
it. Yeah,
easy to get people to do one thing if you can convince them to think that it's cool or that it's all right to do it. But like that comes down to like, that's not them really knowing you. That's them putting their influence on you. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So like, I think that the difference between there is like influence and actually knowing somebody, because you can't really know somebody. It's more of a, I predict you're gonna do this, or I think you're gonna do this, and I'm more than likely you're right. And then that's where that notion of, oh, I know this person is, because you spend so much time around them that you begin to know their habits. And then that's where that phrase comes from, because you recognize their habits and you realize that like this is what they're most likely to do, and they like to do this and they don't like this.
very true. Yeah, because I was thinking like in your example, knowing somebody versus controlling. That's a good point. There's a lot of married couples who think they know their partner, but it's really hard because it's like we're human at the end of the day. Like yeah, you may know your wife or your husband, but you have no idea what they're gonna think about. At 5:05, every single day. But you may know like okay, around 1 to 2 o'clock, he or she go and does this, or runs this errand. So there's it's like you were saying habits. Like there's habit remembering. So yeah,
Yeah. And that's what that is. It's just like, it's not hard to catch on to habits. It's harder to catch on to a personality than it is their habits. Cause like
yeah,
you can take it to like school, like you'll recognize like somebody's just never in class, so they're always late, or next person might be always early. And then there's not always that like, oh, this, the person who's late or the person who's never there is always a bad influence, or they're surrounded by bad influences. It might just be like a personal thing. It might be a, oh, this person has this going on, or this person's prioritizing this over the next thing. And sometimes the person who's there early or on time all the time is just zoned out and they're the one failing, you know?
okay. Very true. Do you think that laughter is the best medicine, like in general?
Mm, not necessarily. I think time, because when I think of laughter as the best medicine, and I think of laughing, to me, I think like laughing, like I feel good in that moment. Like when you're watching a comedy special, you're laughing at that person in that moment, and then you might laugh for a little while afterwards when it pops up in your mind, but then like a few days later or a couple hours later, it's left your mind, so you're not necessarily thinking about it, so you don't feel as good. I feel that time is the best medicine, because as time goes on, you begin to forgive, and if you don't forgive, then you're probably going to forget. And it's not 100% true. It's just more of a, like, time goes on and more than likely you're either going to get tired of holding on to something for so long, or you're going to forget why you were holding on to it and just forget and just stop holding on to it.
Just let it go. Don't hold
Yeah.
that for.
Because like you can laugh, but if you're sad or you're depressed, like laughter, it's like you're sick, but you're only stopping or going to try to attack one of the symptoms of the
Yeah,
illness.
yeah. That's just what I was thinking. Yeah,
Yeah. So like you can you can have the flu, but if you're only saying, okay, I just want to stop coughing, you're not going to stop the headache. So you're not going to stop the congestion. Like you're just going to stop coughing. And that's a lot of it, is that people might be laughing on the outside, but it's the things that are going on the inside. Because I can be coughing and then stop coughing, and then I can have a headache, but no one's going to know I have a headache unless I tell them.
You're absolutely right. I'm definitely agreeing with your point. In regards to it's only temporary. It's like a dose. It's not supposed to be forever. You're gonna laugh. Yes, it's gonna be hilarious at the moment, and then look, but so I never I asked that because you hear that a lot, like the phrase. And I was like, what does that really mean? Like I get that laughter does kind of erase all the problems around you for that moment. They don't include that though. That's the thing. They don't include that it's only for a moment. It's only supposed to be temporary. Nothing lasts forever, good or bad. Nothing lasts forever. We all know that.
Yeah.
And I feel that it's good. It's good to laugh. It's very good to laugh because it gets you away from whatever you're dealing with. But understand that laughter should not be the sole thing that you rely on. It should just be a bonus. It should be just be an addition to your life. I think, and you made a good point. Time, but I'm gonna say something else, so I want to just keep agreeing with you. But I
Yeah.
think time is definitely a good one. But I feel like the best medicine is just happiness, but like self happiness, more specifically, because a lot of people, and I talked about this a couple days ago with somebody. When we talk about relationships, a lot of people go into a relationship, marriage, or just a general relationship, thinking that the other person is going to make them happy. But in reality, both of you are supposed to be happy before you get into a relationship, and then when you get into the relationship, you're just supposed to bring both of your happinesses together and to basically make that relationship glow. So a lot of times if you see couples, they just look good. They look like they enjoy each other's company. That's because they're probably happy with themselves first, and then they combine and join as one. They're happy as one. Some people they just rush the relationship and they think, oh, this person made me happy. And they get in a relationship and find out this person sucks. This person's terrible personality. They don't make them laugh. Nothing. They don't make them smile. And I feel that's where a lot of people, just in general, it doesn't matter what age, a lot of people rush. That's why, me personally, I have now realized that it's okay to be single. Like, it's okay to focus on yourself, to know thyself. I'm not quoting J. Cole, but I am. Know thyself before you get messed around and jump into a relationship because being single is a gift. People don't realize that because you get to enjoy your own company, and I feel that and I digress, of course, but I feel that self happiness is really one of the best medicines you can have in humanity, if not the best.
I agree with that. Like self happiness, you do have to be happy with who you are as a person. And that really does, like when you find that self happiness and that self joy and that self love, that is when you're the most happiest. And like I agree, like there are a lot of people who rush into a relationship or rush into something looking for happiness. It it's sad, to be honest with you, because nobody can truly make you happy. Like there's nothing that you can buy that'll make you happy. Like the phrase money doesn't buy happiness is very true. It's not going to buy you happiness. It'll buy you an escape. Like you'll be able to buy something and then you'll enjoy it for that little moment and you'll have that escape from reality. But then after that, it's like, all right, you're coming back. So it's like,
Yeah.
did it truly make you happy or did it just make you forget about what you were trying to forget?
Like a dose, it's only supposed to be temporary. It's not, it can be addicting. It can be addicting.
That search for happiness, it really can be addicting because there are people who are out there that people who are addicted to drugs, for example, are like searching for that happiness. They're searching for that high because when they feel that high, they're like, all right, this is what happiness feels like. This is what I've been looking for. And then when they come down, it's like, I have to find it again. I have to go back to it. I miss it. I don't want to be here anymore.
What is your opinion on two things? One, a time for everything versus never a right time when it comes to like risks.
I feel that there is a time for everything because you can easily walk into something and you not be prepared for it. Like you can go into a relationship and not be prepared for it, but then you can't say there's never a time for risks because in everything you do, there's always a risk. Like there's always a risk and there's always a reward. So let's say, like, we'll just keep it on relationships. Say, for instance, you want to get into this relationship with somebody. You have to risk your feelings because if they say no, then you putting in all that effort and that energy is like, wow, you rejected me. How? Why would you do that? Is it something with me? But if they say yes, then it's like, oh, I got something going for me now. So there's always that risk and reward, but you have to know the time, because if you're not patient with something and you just rush into it, then you can begin to get yourself into trouble that you didn't think of in the first place.
I'm gonna rebuttal, but not to the extreme. I'm gonna say this. I am agreeing with you. I'm gonna say that there's a time for everything. Definitely, you shouldn't just do something just because you know it's sunny today. Like you shouldn't just go out and buy an Audi R8 because the sun was shining directly in a good position like that. That's the definition of not timing yourself. But I am in agreement, or I'm going to rebuttal that and say that you will never get all your ducks lined up, if you know what I mean. Like, it will never, there's no such thing as a perfect time. There's good time, there's even great time. But in my opinion, I just don't see how in this imperfect world there can be a perfect time to, it's not just risk, just anything. There's no perfect time to wake up. Like you can say early in the morning, but is 6:30 the best? Maybe it's 5:30. Maybe it's 5:12. Maybe it's 8 a.m. Like there's never a perfect time for everything. Doesn't mean it's bad when you take that risk or you go in time and go after whatever it is you're trying to go after. But it's just to say that there's never a right, there's never a perfect time. I'll say that. There's never a perfect time to do anything, in my opinion.
Yeah,
But I am in agreement with you when you say certain
yeah,
things do require a specific time.
yeah. Like there's never a perfect time for anything. There's always a good time. Like you watch basketball, the jump shot might not be a perfect jump shot. It just has to be good enough to go into to make the basket. So there's never going to be that perfect time. Like everything's not going to line up. Like the wind's not going to blow 3 degrees to the left, and it's not going to be 86 degrees and partly sunny. Like just to tell you something's the right time. Like it might be raining outside and you might be tired, but you take a risk. So yeah, there's not that perfect time, but there's always a time. It doesn't have to be a perfect time. It just has to be good enough to where you're comfortable to take that risk.
Yep. I like when you said when going back to relationships, there's a risk and reward. Um, I feel like a lot of people, and I'll say we as people, we forget that the good times are going to be bad eventually, and the bad times are going to be good eventually. So it goes back to that risk and reward. When you go up to approaching the opposite sex, usually you're going to get rejected at some point. You're not always going to get every single person is going to like you, and then you're going to get some who actually see you as either attractive or they find your sense of humor great or your personality. So you'll come across both of those. So it's, like you said, risk and reward. So it's just, and that also plays in. I just thought of it. It also goes into timing. So you don't want to just do it just because. You don't want to just like cold ask people, hey, do you accept me for who I am, and they reject you. Just as an example, you accept me for who I am, reject me or accept me. You don't just that requires time. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, is she feeling me? Is he or she feeling me? Am I presentable? Do I look presentable? I have a personality. Do I still need to reevaluate myself? Do I still need to spend time alone with myself? What do I need to do? Those thoughts come in mind when it comes to risk. And then the reward is, okay, if I have all those things in check, if I'm good to go, then no matter what he or she says, I'm going to do it because I know It's either that's the risk I'm taking, that's the risk I'm going to take.
All right. So when it comes to not even just music, but entertainment in general, do you think that people find it offensive because of how they said it, or do you think it's offensive because of the thing they said? Like for music, for example, like your parents when you were younger, they wouldn't let you listen to like a lot of rap or a lot of vulgar things. Do you think it's because of how they were saying it, or is it because of what they were saying?
I think it was a little bit of both, but it was more so on what they said because how you said it. I mean, you can say two things differently, but it's how you say it. The first time you can say it very softly, subtly, and the second time you can say it very assertively and aggressively, but you're saying the same thing. Like me saying um, personal attack, okay, personal attack. Versus the second time I said personal attack, like saying the same thing. This is an example, but it's definitely two different ways of how I can say those words. So I think it's more of what they say. Like whatever they say, is it good? Okay, you can listen to it. Is it bad? Don't want my child listening to that. You know what I mean? At a young age. So I think it's when it comes to artists, I think it's both, but it's more of what they say.
I think it was more of a like a how they said it, because you can have somebody say like, oh, just keep it on top of like, oh, Black Lives Matter. Like I see black people being murdered and I don't like it by the hands of police. So Black Lives Matter. You can say that, but then there can be one person that's like, oh man, everybody else and don't nobody else matter because only Black Lives Matter, man. Not everybody else matter. We don't matter until everybody else matters. So everybody else don't matter until we matter, man. Everybody else. So like I feel like it's how they said it, because they both generally said the same thing, but one came off more disrespectful than the other one did.
Definitely, you're so right. That was a good example. I definitely agree. Like how you say it, but I think it can go both ways. But definitely
Yeah.
agree with what you said.
I think it's a combination of both, but it really gets you thinking. Like
Yeah,
when you speak to
that is
people,
true. That is a
sometimes
good point. Yeah,
because it's like sometimes it's not what you said that irritated the person; it's how you said it. Because like you can look at like in class, and a teacher can tell somebody to take something out or to do something else, and then that kid will get irritated, and it's like, why did you get irritated? He just told you to do this, and then you go ask that person. It's like, nah, to me that came off as disrespectful, and then it's like, well, it didn't come to disrespectful as me. So it's like, why is it that different people find things disrespectful that other people don't?
all right, guys. That is the end of this video. Thank you, Dom, for joining me in this episode podcast
It's
edition. My viewers out there, like and comment down below. Tap that bell for notifications and subscribe to the Dream King channel for future.
it's